I'm finally home, he thinks for the first time in such a long while. His gaze now seems to capture every tiny private house and every grocery store they pass with slightly more interest. Jungkook remembers that his home is almost on the outskirts, meaning they have to drive through the entire town. Taking a deep breath again, he decides that the idea that crossed his mind isn't that bad. "Excuse me," the boy calls again, silently chastising himself for becoming too bothersome and distracting the man from the road. "Yes, sir, could you please stop at the nearest supermarket? Yes. I need to buy something. I promise it won't take much time." "Of course, sir. No problem. Could I help you with anything else?" the driver asks, lowering the suitcase onto the ground, lightly dusted with a thin layer of snow. And when Jungkook shakes his head in negation, the man quietly closes the trunk and stands upright next to the car. No, that's all." Jungkook gives him a grateful smile. "Thank you for your assistance. And for, well, this." He awkwardly nods at what he holds in his hand. "Happy to help," the man responds with a brief smile. "Have a good evening, sir." Safe travels. Freeing one hand with some difficulty, Jungkook waves goodbye to the driver, and after watching the man quickly disappear into the car and drive away, he exhales loudly. Jungkook closes his eyes for a moment, tilting his head back slightly. He takes a deep breath, filling his lungs with the fresh air, so different from the one enveloping New York. He's home. A small village in Macomb County, where Jungkook has lived for as long as he can remember. He remembers riding his bike to school along the same road every morning for 12 years. Jungkook also remembers all the houses in the neighborhood and all the neighbors who inhabited them. He recalls Mr. and Mrs. Brooks' house. They had a huge collie named Pen, whom Mr. Brooks never agreed to keep on a leash. But Jungkook liked that because any time he wanted, he could run to the neighboring house on the right of his own and play with her. In the house across from theirs, a figure of both neighborly warmth and subtle eccentricity, she crafted delectable peanut butter cookies that became a neighborhood legend at some point. Every afternoon she could be found perched on her porch, surrounded by the comforting embrace of well-worn crossword puzzle books, a ritual she indulged in religiously, especially after acquiring a fresh compilation every Sunday. Jungkook exhales loudly, scrutinizing the house across the road. No lights illuminate its interior, and the once pristine white wooden fence, a fixture he had known well kept throughout his life, now leans slightly and bears the scars of peeling paint. He observes a hefty lock hanging on the front door, and at the edge of the driveway, a small sign planted in the damp earth reads "For sale." The sight tightens his heart, and Jungkook rubs his eyes with a few fingers, convincing himself that the tears gathering in the corners are from the chilly wind and not a lament for his slightly more carefree past. Jungkook's voice, tinged with surprise, suddenly calls out, causing him to startle. He turns to see an elderly woman on the porch of the neighboring house. "I can't believe my eyes. Is it really you?" She theatrically clutches her heart, and Jungkook chuckles quietly, nodding. He releases the handle of his suitcase and, carefully stepping on the damp soil of the lawn, approaches the neighbor's house. "It's me, Mrs. Chan. Who else could it? He didn't mention that you'd be coming home for Christmas." Jungkook tucks his hands into the pockets of his coat, awkwardly glancing at his own house. "I decided to surprise them. Mom doesn't know I'm here yet." "Oh, darling, that's wonderful. I'm sure both Ji and the girls will be thrilled to see you." Jungkook nods, a bit hesitant, before looking at the neighbor again. "Mrs. Chan, yes, how's Mom? I mean, How is she? What? Well, she never tells me the truth over the phone, no matter how much I ask. And you live nearby, seeing her every day. So, I thought maybe you could tell me if everything is okay here. Jungkook sees the woman purse her lips before shrugging vaguely. I think there's nothing you wouldn't know or suspect yourself, dear. And I hardly know more than you do, to be honest. Mrs. Jian rarely goes out lately. We mostly see only the girls. He nods, understanding, lowering his gaze. Indeed, there's nothing he wouldn't have known himself. I think you should go inside. The neighbor's soft voice pulls him out of his thoughts, deciding to change the subject. It's quite cold outside, dear, and you wouldn't want to catch a cold. I think you're right. Jungkook tiredly smiles, lifting his gaze. I'm really glad to see you, Mrs. Chan. Maybe I can drop by later, of course, dear. You're always welcome. And don't be a stranger. We've missed you around here. I've missed this place too, Mrs. Chan. It's good to be back, even if it's just for a little while. The elderly woman smiles warmly, and as Jungkook turns to head inside, she adds, I know your mom will be over the moon when she sees you. It's the best Christmas gifts she could ever ask for. It's so good to see you. Mrs. Chan watches him with a smile for a few more moments. Then, waving a farewell, she adjusts the scarf around her neck and walks away, quickly disappearing down the road. Jungkook recalls it down that way. There's a small market, a pharmacy, and a quaint cafe in that part of the neighborhood. Breathing in deeply, Jungkook retraces his steps to where he left his belongings. He retrieves a small bouquet of flowers from the suitcase, a thoughtful gift for his mom, and picks up a medium-sized paper bag with the supermarket logo from the ground. Grasping the suitcase handle, he leisurely rolls it along the path leading to the house. Ignoring the flutter in his stomach, Jungkook manages to free his hand to ring the doorbell. However, when he doesn't hear the familiar sound from inside, he bites his lip in disappointment. It seems the bell is broken. With no other choice, he resorts to knocking. After a couple of moments, following muted footsteps, the door unexpectedly swings open, revealing two pairs of eyes staring at him. Jungkook, one of the girls, asks in disbelief, almost whispering. Upon receiving a nod accompanied by a warm smile, both of them exclaim with a bit more assurance. Jungkook can rush towards him with open arms. I've missed you so much, Jungkook whispers, embracing them, feeling two pairs of feminine hands holding him a bit too tightly. Mom didn't say you were coming, one of his sisters sniffles. How could you two keep this a secret? Jungkook laughs, pulling away slightly, and with warmth in his eyes, he gazes at the girls. Mom doesn't know either, he whispers and sees both of his sisters suddenly exclaim, their eyes lighting up with a spark of understanding. It seems like now they've finally figured everything out. Really? Who's there? Is Mom's quiet voice from deep inside the house prompts all three of them to freeze. Then the youngest one breaks away from Jungkook, rushing into the room. Mom! Mom! Come quick! Jungkook sighs, covering his eyes, and still standing beside him, pats his shoulder and leans against him, wrapping her arm around his waist. We've missed you so much, Jungkook. It's incredible that you're here, exclaims, her eyes bright with surprise and joy. Lee nods enthusiastically, still hugging Jungkook as if she's afraid he might vanish. I wasn't sure if it would work out, so I didn't say anything in advance. Sorry, Jungkook offers, attempting to explain his sudden appearance. It's alright. The main thing is you're here now. So, We can spend the holiday as a family, right? You, Mom, Lee, and me. Jests, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Yeah. Yes, of course, we can. And we'll spend Christmas together. Jungkook assures them, returning their infectious smiles. And your birthday. First, your birthday, the girl chimes in, adding another layer of anticipation to the already joyous atmosphere. Jungkook laughs, shaking his head, and ruffles hair affectionately. Then, an unexpected hush falls over the room, and Jungkook senses the shift in energy. His sister's grip on him loosens, and he follows her gaze to the archway. Mom, come on. Let's go, Lee urges, tugging at her mother's hand, her excitement contagious.